Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, but I think you know that. If you don't know that, well, you do now. And Brachelle's over there. Hey, Brachelle, how you doing?
I'm good, Kevin. We have had a very powerful day. Everything and every experience that we have had so far has been great. And I'm ending the day with a lot more energy than I came into it with. So I'm excited to have Jem Fuller here today with us. He has a website, jemfuller.com, talking about conscious communication. So I'm excited for the show and to have you here. How are you? And thank you.
I'm great, thanks, Brachelle. Thanks for asking. G'day, Kevin, and thanks for having me on your show. You know, I looked at my calendar at the start of the week, and you look ahead and say, what have I got on this week? And I saw that I got to come and jump on with you guys, and I got excited. So here we are.
Hey.
Yes, indeed. And Brachelle's right. We've had just a fabulous day, but it's always great to end the day on a high note. And that's what we're doing today is Jem is he's on a farm in Australia, mate. How are you?
And we
That
were
was
talking
kind of
previously
okay.
about how nice the kangaroos are.
That was
Kevin?
the worst.
Yeah.
That was the worst Aussie accent I've ever seen or ever heard.
Dude, I don't know many people that can actually do the Australian accent. It's not an easy one to do. So you went all right.
Well, good. So tell us about your work. You're a facilitator, you're a coach, you're a speaker. You do all kinds of stuff. But how did this all begin for you?
Oh, well, gee, 54 years ago.
My
54
mom
years
and
ago, I was
dad
born
had a
in
date.
Holland.
No.
Oh, look, I guess it's a kind of not normal story of how I got here. And, through my childhood, I knew there was a big wide world out there. My dad was quite an international fellow, and we traveled a bit. And then also through my teenage years, as a reaction to not wanting to be my dad, because bless him, I loved him, but I didn't want to be like him, and he was quite conservative, and so I was the opposite. I was alternative, and from the age of 18, I got as far away from Melbourne, Australia, as I could, and I got the travel bug, and I just was really, really passionate and addicted to traveling to far and weird and wonderful places around the world, right through my 20s and into my early 30s. And to fund my travels, I would just do whatever I could along the way. I ended up working as a tribal tattooist and a kindergarten teacher in Taiwan and a fire dancer and a motorcycle courier and a volunteer in third world countries and all sorts of things to keep funding my ability to just keep being a vagabond, really. You know what a vagabond is, like a hobo traveling around the world. I look
free
back
spirit
now and it all makes sense. A free spirit. Let's say a free spirit.
Yes.
But, it's interesting because, look, just to round out on that, because then I became a dad and went and did the corporate thing and put on a suit and tie, which everyone thought was very strange for me to do, but I did that. So got to do the corporate leadership thing, and then came out of that, had the midlife crisis and lost my job and my marriage and my house, etc. That old chestnut. And then now onto this last 13 years of working, as a coach and a facilitator and running retreats in the Himalaya in India and building our nonprofit and doing some global love-based initiatives around helping humanity is where I am now. But with the benefit of hindsight, I look back over it all and it all makes sense now. I'm like, that's why I did that bit. And that's why that bit happened, So, yeah.
Well, I got to ask you, you've done a lot of things. Fire dancer? How the hell did you get that into that?
Yeah. Well, when I was, a dreadlocked bearded, barefoot hippie wandering around India in the 90s, I came across these Dutch friends of mine who are still friends of mine to this day, actually, and they were spinning fire around on sticks and on cables, and they're called poi in New Zealand. The traditional, the Maori in New Zealand do this dancing with these pois, and you can put Kevlar on the end of them and light them on fire. Dip them in kerosene and light them on fire. And the same with the staff. You can have Kevlar at each end of the staff, dip it into something flammable and light it on fire and spin it around. And it looks great, especially at night. It looks really beautiful. That's a little bit dangerous, so the adrenaline gets going. And there's a certain art and craft to the skill. It's like a martial art. You need to learn how to dance with these fire toys, which I did, and I loved it. And then I was in Taiwan teaching kindergarten, and I was standing outside a pub one night playing with my fire toys because it was fun. And this Taiwanese guy came up to me and he said, I'm an entertainer's agent, and I can get you work if you want. And I said, yes, please, because I'm here to earn money. And so the next thing I knew, me and my wife were standing on stages outside the big New York style department stores in Taipei, getting paid a lot of money to wear not many clothes and twirl fire around in the air.
What is it about you? And we'll get into your work in just a minute, but there are people that are listening to this going, oh, I could never do that. Or what is it about you that you took all things, all comers, and you made it your own, and you traveled the world, which, by the way, Rochelle wants to do exactly what you did and stuff. But what is it about you that made you different, that made you want to do that?
Well, look, on the surface level, I just didn't want to walk the well-trodden path. I didn't want everyone I went to school with finished school and went to college and got a job, and did what Western society told us to do to be happy, which was earn as much money as possible and build your house and get a couple of cars, and if you're lucky, you have a holiday house and a boat. And and if you do that, then you will be happy. And I just never subscribed to that. I was like, yeah, nah, not doing it. Sorry. If you want to go deeper psychologically, why was I like that? I think it was because of my relationship with my father, like I alluded to before. And, I was a reaction to him. Bless him. Like I said, I love him. I love him and loved him. He died 15 years ago when he was only 65 years old. And he was a good man and I loved him, but I also didn't want to be him. So I went as far away from that as I could.
So, Rochelle, ask Jem where all he's been to.
Well, before we get into all that, I'd like to just say that it is very powerful, especially for me. I'm going through the midst of it at 26 years old. I mean, the whole world is right in front of me. What do you do? Who are you? What do you create? What are you involved in? Why? And it can be kind of overwhelming, but it's also such a blessing. And I love how you put the perspective on your father of it being a positive. That's what pushed you. That's what made you want to be that. You had an example of what not to be, but you made such a powerful thing out of it. And I myself can relate to that a lot. So I think it's empowering for people to know that it's okay to become something the opposite of what is around you that you see you want to differentiate from. That's not a negative ever. And there's so much power in learning in that too, because I can imagine all these people now that look at you and they're like, Jem has been through it. Jem did it. He was true to himself and he learned those lessons and he followed through. And then he took it a step further and flipped us all around. Like you said, no one was expecting you to get the 9 to 5 and put the suit on and have the wife and the kids. And then the way you excelled through that as well, through what you had already been through, shows that pretty much anyone can say what they want about their own life story or how it was made up to be, but it shows that you chose to believe something different than maybe what was around you or was your example. And I think there's a lot more people like that out in the world than we think of that don't just follow those norms. And people now especially are starting to really burst out. They want to be unique. They want to do something that's not done. And you did that at such an early time. So then I'll come to, out of all of the places that you went, what were your top favorites and why?
It's such a big question, you know. It's funny. One of still to this day, one of my favorite places. I mean, India is like my second home. India to me is the mother country. I absolutely love India. If past lives are true, then in my last life I was definitely Indian for sure, 100%. Right. And all of my Indian friends say that as well. But in fact, my Indian friends joke and say, "You are more Indian than we are. What are you talking about?" Right. So,
My
so I
Siri
love
is Indian
India.
because I can't stop fighting with it unless it's
Yes.
that voice. I don't get mad. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 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 My Siri has been Indian for a long time too. So I love India. However, a standout place for me was the remote northern regions of Pakistan. And for two reasons. One, I'm a nature lover, and it's absolutely stunning up there. There's four of the world's largest mountain ranges all collide up there. And so it's got the highest concentration of tallest peaks. It's got the highest concentration of glaciers. It's just naturally, the natural wonder up there is breathtaking, combined with the hospitality was through the roof. And yes, up in those remote little mountain villages, yes, there's people are religious, but they're secondarily religious. They're not religious extremists. First of all, they have to be mountain people because it's survival up there, right? You've got to think about growing our food, our crops, our water, our living. So, first of all, they're mountain people, you know, and secondarily, they're Muslims. And so this hospitality, and every time I go into a new country, I try to learn a little bit of the language. I dress respectfully. So before I went into Pakistan, I walked over from India. I walked over the border into Pakistan. This was in 1998. And before I went into a Pakistani tailor, I had traditional, you know, the shawal kameez, the shirt and the pants that the men wear. I had it made for me. I had a beard. I learned how to say assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. You know, I learned a few words in Urdu, and I walked across into Pakistan respectfully. And I tell you what, the hospitality was next level. Do you mind if I tell you a quick little story about
Please
this
do.
time? Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely.
So I went at the time. There was this area in between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it was called the Northwestern Frontier Province. And neither the Pakistani or the Afghani government had any jurisdiction in there. It was tribal law. It was run by mujahideen. So there was the governments couldn't go in there, and there was a lot of drugs and guns traded and made and traded and whatnot in the markets in there. I wanted to go in and see it because I was an adventurer, and so I kind of got a local guy to smuggle me in. I pretended to be a Pakistani, and I went in just so I could have a look. Then I went out of there, and then I hitchhiked up into the north of Pakistan, staying in local villages with families in their homestays. Amazing hospitality, looking after me beautifully. 2 weeks after I left the Northwestern Frontier Province, the Bush administration sent cruise missiles in to try and kill Osama bin Laden back in 1998. So this is before 9/11, to kill Osama bin Laden because he had claimed responsibility for the bombings on the American embassy in Africa. This was in 1998. And they sent cruise missiles into this Mujahideen area where I was a few weeks before, and I had no idea. Anyway, so then I'm up in the north of Pakistan, and I'm sitting on a bus next to this really lovely young Pakistani university student. And because he was at university, he spoke a bit of English, so we could connect. Now, we could not have been more different. He was devout Muslim. I was not religious. I grew up in a Christian family, but I'd left the church and I was very spiritual. His food was different. His language was different. His culture was different. Everything. We could not have been more different. And the most beautiful moment, he reached over to my arm and he touched the skin on my arm, and he said, "If we cut your skin here," and then he touched his own skin and he said, "And if we cut my skin here," and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "We have the same blood. You and me, we're the same," he said. We have the same color blood. And in that moment, we had a spiritual connection. We looked each other in the eyes with pure, unconditional love. All of the differences between us disappeared. And it was just two young men looking in each other's eyes with love. And it was a really, truly beautiful moment. And it stuck with me. And I use this story in corporate boardrooms when people are disagreeing over direction of a company. I use this when I'm chatting with people who are fighting over their different political ideas, or when people are fighting over pro-choice or pro-life, or when people are fighting over anti-vax or pro-vax. All of these divides that get created with humans, I use that story to help us remember we're all in this together. You know, we all care about our children. We all need food and water. We all need shelter. We all grieve when a loved one dies. You know, so I'm really passionate about us humans coming together and humanity coming together, and that story helps me with that.
That's a beautiful story, and you know, and that's one of the cornerstones of what we do here is that and I really think that if people would recognize this, it would change the world. That we're all one. We all come to the same place. We all have the same DNA. We all have, and we've got subtle differences, but we really are. There is no other. I was talking to a guy just yesterday, and I said, you know, there's no point in complaining about somebody else that being the other because they have a different lifestyle than you or a different religion than you. There is no other. And there's just us, and we're all one.
Yeah.
And do you subscribe to that?
Oh, 100%. You know, it's interesting because we say that that when we look at something spiritual, like the way you've just described it, we say that that's woo-woo and that's not real. And we would say, but at the other end of it, our ego, our sense of identity is real. Like, I'm me, you're you, you're sitting over there, I'm over here. I can see the differences between us. You know, so our ego, which is our sense of identity, we believe that to be real. But that's the illusion, right? Our ego is a made-up thing. It's an illusion. We're not born with an ego. It's a necessary illusion. We need it to function. I get that, but it's not an actual real thing. But when you look at the fact that we are all of the same stardust, everything in the universe comes from the same stuff. We're made of that. And when you look at that, we are of our environment. We're not separate to our environment. We're consuming our environment with every breath. You're breathing in oxygen, and it's becoming into your blood. Every time you eat food, you're eating your environment. If you and I were sitting in the same room together and someone walked into that room with a bunch of flowers and we smell the flowers, that's actual particles from those flowers. We're ingesting the actual particles of the flower. That's what smell is. I mean, how amazing is this? When women live together for a long enough period of time, they come into their lunar cycles together. Their cycles become into sync. Now, I only found out recently how that actually happens. Actual pheromones are emitted through the skin, and they're sharing physical particles with each other, and the dominant female, the other females, come into sync with her. Now, that's beautiful, and it's also showing us that we are all in this living, breathing environment together. We're all connected. We're inseparably and intrinsically a part of the greater system together. So that spiritual idea of kumbaya and we're all one, that's the actual reality.
It's the truth. Yeah.
I know that to be true. And I know, by the way, we're talking with Jem Fuller. He is a phenomenal human being. And we're just loving this conversation. Matter of fact, I blew the break, so we got to take a break now, and we're a little late, but we'll be right back in just 1 minute. Stay with us, everybody.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Brishelle. She's right over there. And Brishelle, I know that you are taken with Jem in a big way. So I'm going to step aside, and I know you have some thoughts. Can you?
Yeah, actually, you worded that in the most beautiful way because I wanted to ask a question based off of the thought. So thank you for that. We are connected. That's another example of that. It doesn't make any sense. Me and Kevin talk to each other and call each other, and we're just like, I was thinking about you. I just picked up my phone. It's those kinds of things, even when you're really far apart. But I had an experience the other day that I wanted to share with you and ask you a question based off of my 16-year-old cousin. We were talking about how everything's connected and why I always say that. I said, did you know that we have DNA? She's like, yeah. Okay, well, the plants also have DNA, and the rocks have a DNA, and the animals have a DNA, and the amphibians have a DNA. Everything that is our DNA is what makes us who we are. If you alter that DNA, it alters who you are. And it was this kind of just looking at her and seeing this eye open of things like everything is alive. Do you remember the moment or a situation where that kind of all hit you and you were like, wait, I understand now how it is all connected and how it changed the way you moved forward?
Yeah, there's been many moments of remembering that, and it feels like when we have those wow, yes,
Hmm.
moments of embodying and experiencing the oneness, the interconnectedness of everything. For me, anyway, when I've had those moments, it feels like a remembering. It feels like a waking up and going, oh, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like I knew it before I came into this human form, and we go through primary school and they teach us, no, that's not real, and no, your imaginary friend's not real, and no, 1 + 1 = 2, and that's just the way it is. We get taught, right? And I don't know, in some way that I can't explain, it feels like we already knew, and we have these wake up moments. And one of them for me was I spent a lot of time, like I said earlier, a lot of time in India and a lot of time meditating and contemplating. And I remember one time I was lying on my back, looking up at the sky, and I think I was maybe I was near a desert. I was in nature, wide open nature. There was no people or buildings or anything around. I was out in the nature, and I was looking up at the sky, and I remember contemplating that up above me, going up into the sky, it goes on and on and on infinitely, right? And then feeling that in my body. And then I remember thinking, wow, out the bottom of my feet and going that way off the earth, that way it goes forever as well. And the same out the top of my head that way. And then to my left, it goes infinitely that way and that way. And then I had this moment where I realized that underneath me, down through the core of the planet and out the other side, it also goes infinitely that way as well. And I had this embodied moment of just going, how the expanse of everything and the fact that it's all out there and it's all in here. It's the same, right? You can go the same infinitely inward down to atoms and protons and electrons and quarks and gluons and smaller into nothingness as well. And I don't know, it was just this enlightening moment where I realized that everything is infinite in both directions and we are a part of it.
You said a couple of things that I really want to follow up on. You said, rather than I learned this, I remembered it. Because in the reality that I live in, that we remember because we knew. But then when we came here, we forgot, and it was an intentional thing, so that we could experience everything anew. and without precondition, without the way it was last time that we were here, and stuff. And so we get to learn. But there are moments when you reach a certain point, and when you remember something that you already knew, but you just forgot because that's part of the plan. I also wanted to ask you about your experiences in life, because looking back on it, you're a seasoned man now, a little more seasoned than you were when you were in your 20s. And so you can look back at the experiences that you've had. And for a long time, you may not have known or connected the dots as to why they happened the way they happened or why they happened. But now you know, because they were destined for you to become the man you are today and the man you're going to be in the future. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I find it, a fascinating conversation to contemplate and to talk about. It's fascinating. And you know what, one of the things I love about this life, this experience of consciousness emerging through us humans and experiencing itself through us, one of the things I love about it is that we can't ever completely objectively know scientifically how it all works. We can't, because the minute we try and observe it or language it or measure it or communicate it, it slips through our fingers, because we're trying to explain something of which we are intrinsically a part of, right? We're not separate from the universe. So I love the great mystery, and because anything's possible. Anything is possible. And so I like to be guided by, well, obviously a combination of heart and soul and mind and the whole thing. But I like to be guided in moments when we can't scientifically prove something. I like to be guided by what feels right, the felt experience, what feels right to me. If I can't intellectualize it, I'm just going to come to my heart, my body, the neurons that go through all of us, the energy field, because everything's energy, right? And I'm just going to sit with that and trust what feels right. Now, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how I've let myself be guided through my life. And that's how, I come to be sitting here with you right now with all of the stories that have happened and all of the things that are yet to happen. It's interesting. My 21-year-old said, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Your 21-year-old. Go ahead.
Well, my 21-year-old said to me when he was finishing high school, he said, "Dad, when I go to college, should I be going to college to go and study something that I think is going to give me the best chance of security and money? Or should I be going to college to study what I love?" And I said, "Oh, that is a no-brainer. You follow what you love. Definitely follow what you love and trust that the rest will take care of itself,
And there again, and Rochelle, I'm loving this conversation. How about you?
Yeah, I am, and I'm thinking about so much of this newer generation that's coming up. I mean, everybody 30 and under, really, it's this whole world that is continuously changing. It's changing really fast, and there's all these new ideas and ways of living and why. Um, and I used to see it as such an overwhelming thing. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Gem, where people may have experienced this and they got in touch with it and they were like, "Whoa, that is way too much for me. I don't understand that. I don't know how to handle it, so I'm not going to." And what would you tell those people?
Yeah. So to an antidote to overwhelm is just action, small bits of action. You don't have to take massive action. Tony Robbins will tell you have to take massive action, or maybe he doesn't say that anymore. I don't know, but you don't need to take massive action if that's overwhelming. Just small little steps. And in terms of, but what step do I take? Follow the things that light you up, right? If there's something that you feel that you're pretty okay at, you think, oh, I'm pretty good at that, and I love doing it. What are the things that light you up? When does time disappear? When are you doing something and you're so in the moment with it, you're so in the flow state with it, that you look at the clock and you go, wow, 3 hours just disappeared while I was painting or while I was listening to music or whatever it is, right? Just follow the things that you love that light you up, and get curious about how can I use my natural talents, the stuff that I love, how can I use that to better the lives of others in some way? How can I use that to make to add value to someone else's life, or to community's life, or to animals' life, or to nature? Or how can I use what I love to somehow be of service to the world around me? If you combine those two things together and just keep following those breadcrumbs, your life will unfold on purpose. Your life will be your life that you're supposed to live, because you're doing what you love doing and you're in service.
And you said a key, and we need to take a break, but you said one of my favorite words in the entire English language, and that is trust. Trust your instincts, trust your intuition, and look and listen, and things will be revealed to you in a way that you can understand. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, come on, that's crazy talk." But no, that's reality. At least in my world. I'm going to ask Jem and Brachelle, how about their worlds? Does that operate for them too? But we'll take this break and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, kevin@kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. That's me. That's me. And there's Brachelle right there. So, guys, what do you think? If putting the intention out there and then trusting that the things are going to appear for you in your life are going to just naturally appear if you pay attention. Brachelle, and I know you and I have been talking about this a lot. Are you finding that is working for you?
Yeah, actually, in kind of a scary way, because one thing I've been telling people that is probably the most contradicting advice you could ever get is the more that you let go of everything around you and look inward, you have full control of everything around you. And it is like the most, if you would have told me that any time before now, I would have gotten mad, I would have laughed in your face, I would have just ignored you completely. But it all kind of has to do with just the fact of surrendering. And it's not to anything, it's within yourself. You surrender. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be like this. I cannot move forward in the way that I want to like this. And when you surrender in yourself and you only focus on nothing but that, all of a sudden you realize that you do have control of everything around you because you have control of yourself. And nothing can really shake or break you of those things. But it can be a very scary thing as well, because then you catch yourself every single time that you go back into those ways of thinking or that backtracking, and you're like, oh, I see this, I know it's happening, I can't let this happen again. And even at times, I've been that person who's like, screw it, I'm going off the deep end, I'm gonna jump, because it added up to so much. And so it can be a very scary thing to try to comprehend and to manage. But it's really beautiful, because then you really don't have to control anything. You just do. You just be, and you learn yourself a lot along the way, which is also a fun process. So thank you for allowing me to share that, Kevin. And Jem, what is your experience?
Wow, I'm just sitting here going, wow, listening to you. If I knew what you know now when I was 26, amazing. It's amazing. Surrender and letting
Thank
go
you.
are one of the keys to Like you said, it's kind of almost counterintuitive, you know, when you surrender and let go, then your ability to be able to manifest everything and to be a part of the divine manifestation just kind of flowers. It becomes like that, you know. It's quite a beautiful wisdom that you just communicated and that you understand.
Thank you.
And it can be scary as well. And back to what you were saying, Kevin, about trust, you know, I trust when I have an idea and I make a decision and I put it into action, I'm just going to trust that's what I'm supposed to do. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to get the best outcome or it's going to be successful, quote unquote, to people who are listening and not watching. I'm doing air quotes. But what is success and what is the best outcome? I've made decisions in the past that have cost me lots of money because it wasn't a great business decision. But I'm so glad that I made those decisions because of what I learned from those things. You know, this life is about experience and learning and love and making mistakes and tripping over and getting back up again. And, you know, that's what life is about. Life's not about this having a perfect pathway where every decision you make doesn't cause any pain, you know. That's not what life's about. So every time, my point is that when you follow your gut or your heart, when you trust your intuition, every decision you've made in the past is the decision you should have made, 100%. Why? How do I know that? Well, because you made it. Reality tells me. You can't undo it. It's done. So apparently that's what you should have done. So in this moment, I'm not going to sit here deliberating for too long, because once I've thought through it and felt through it and made a decision, let's get on with it. Life's short. You know, my brother died on his motorbike when he was 30 years old. And luckily for him, he lived a full life. He lived a beautiful life. He was like that star that was shining the brightest before it expires. But when my brother died, he was 8 years younger than me. That was the biggest smack in the face for me. That hurt. That one really hurt all of us, losing him. He died 4 months after my dad had died. My dad died from a brain tumor when he was 65, and 4 months later, my little brother died on his motorbike, instant gone. But what I learned from that was that I ain't going to waste a day sitting here going, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done that, or what should I do? No, I'm not wasting time. It could be all over tomorrow. We're all going to die, and we don't know when. All right. So I don't want to waste time feeling negative feelings to someone that I love. I don't want to waste time sitting here debating whether I should get up and go out and try and do something with my life. I don't want to waste time, because time can be taken away from us at any moment. So yeah, trust it, get on with it. Trust your intuition, surrender and let go to the divine, and just go out and do your best.
I won't let anything stop me from sharing this. And if you're watching this, you can't see, but please hear me when I say that this is exactly what we're talking about. You can call me crazy. I decided to look down. Something's been poking me on my pants, driving me nuts. And I look down, and it is a cat whisker. I have cats. Okay, you find a cat whisker. To me, I've always collected them, but let me tell you one thing. I've never looked up, like, if there was a meaning. You know, you find things and you see things come into your perspective, and you're like, hey, what's the spiritual meaning of that? And you're like, there's no way. It is one of those moments where we're talking about this, and you said what finding a cat whisker out of random means, and it is intuition.
Wow.
Awesome.
So you can say that this is all woo-woo, but I'm pretty sure that it's playing out in real time. And if you're here to enjoy this with us, thank you for being here. Jem, you are such a bloom in so many people's life, just to get to hear your story, because you just didn't let anything stop you, and you took it all for what it could be. And thank you for also touching base on it's not easy and it's not supposed to be all fun and rainbows, because people think, oh, well, Brichelle's just so happy because everything in her life is working out and blah, 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 blah. Yes, maybe. Maybe I am creating that. And I'm very proud of myself, and I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm trying to show that you can do that too. But I do go to sleep at night, and I do have my emotions, and I do have my past, and I sit with myself and my soul, and it is a lot deeper than what people see on the outside. And you've gone to travel the world to experience this with so many people and so many cultures. And I have to say, I'm pretty jealous, and I hope to live a life like that.
And if
Without it being
You'll live your
negative.
version of it.
Yeah, it will. It will be. It will be. And I just want to tell this story real quick because there's a lot of us need to change your perspective. And the perspective that I'm going to tell is this. I've needed to get new tires for my car and a brake job for a long time. I don't drive very much, and so it wasn't a big deal. And so last Friday, I was coming back to where I live, and I hear this click, 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 click as the wheel turns. Click, click, and it was a screw that was suddenly embedded in my front tire. So when I get home, I hear this and the tire is slowly deflating. Now, I had a choice at that point. And I could have said, oh, life is terrible. Now I got to do this. I looked at it like, all right, guys, I know it's time for me to change my brakes and to get new tires. And so because I was not, I was vacillating about doing it. And the universe basically said, no, son, we're going to protect you from yourself. We're going to have this done so that you don't have to worry about it in the future. And so so in the middle of the night, I was thinking about these different places that I'd been looking at, and one of them that I picked, he answered the phone in the morning, and he answered, "Hello," and I said, "Is this Rex's all night toy?" And yeah, how can I help? Thank you. Have a nice day. And so I got the message that go to a service that you've gone to before and you can depend on. So I called this place. It's Les Schwab, and they're all over the United States. And the guy was very kind, and he said, "Oh no, don't worry. We'll come pick up your car, and we'll change it. They'll change the tire, and we'll take it to the shop, and we'll put new tires on it, put new brakes on it, and then we'll bring the car back." I said, "You do that?" I mean, that's it. And he said, it's going to cost, X number of dollars. So I decided I wanted to get out of the house. So I got an Uber when they told me the car was ready and went there. The price was almost half of what I expected to pay. And they were very kind, and the job is great. My car operates great. My point in telling that story is the perception that I had was, it's not woe is me, this is crap, and why is this happening to me? It is with a divine purpose, and it's going to all work out in the end because I knew it would. Does that story make any sense, or do I need to be on medication?
No, that's good. I mean, imagine if you would have pushed
that's
against it,
great.
and then what your experience would have been, Kevin.
100%.
I know.
The 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That story is perfect. It reminds me of the saying, some people say, this happened to me, and other people say, this happened for me, right? It's just flipping that perspective on it. But it's so true, Kevin, because your choice of your perspective in that moment led to a whole different outcome. And we make these choices moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. So if you're someone who looks at things in the negative down way every time, it's leading you down a pathway, and you get to the end of your life, and heaven forbid you turn around, look at your life and go, well, that was pretty terrible, wasn't it? Right? But that's all because of the way you approached every moment, right? But if you approached moments like you approached that nail in your tire, then your life ends up, and you get to the end of your life, and you turn around and look at your life and you go, well, that was remarkable and wonderful and extraordinary, and it had its ups and downs, but it was all quite beautiful. And do you know what I mean? Like, it's a really important story to tell.
Well, and I know your story that you've had what I call, because I've had it, a bad country music song experience, where things just aren't going right, and my dad died, my dog died, my wife left, I lost my house and all that. But you know something? I'm still here, and I'm better for it, because I got to tell you, I wouldn't have met Purcell otherwise. I've got a great team behind me. I wouldn't have met them, and the people that were in my life that I do not need anymore and needed to let go of are all gone. And it's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Divine time.
Yeah. Perspective
It's
matters.
scary.
Perspective really matters.
Yes, indeed.
How you look at something. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You got me
Please.
excited.
Yes, go.
You got me excited. how you look at something matters, right? The way
Yeah.
you perceive something, the perspective you have matters, because for many reasons, but because let's, to give you an analogy, if you were looking at an object floating in the middle of the room and it looked like a ball, a sphere, like a ball, like a basketball, if that was, and you only had that perspective, you saw a ball, that determines your the way you would interact with it, your relationship, the way you think about it, the way you feel about it. You're going, okay, that's a ball. But if you moved around 90 degrees and you saw it was actually the round end of a long cylinder, because you've got a different perspective now, you can see, then your whole relationship with that object changes. It's like, oh, I wouldn't bounce it, I wouldn't all changes, right? So your perspective matters. So for example, if we were walking through the forest together, here in Australia we call it the bush, if we were walking through the bush together, the outback, and we hear a rustle in the grass next to us, and we go, snake, right? Run. Now, our perspective is that it's a snake. So because we think it's a snake, even if it's not, but because we think it's a snake, our physiological state of being in that moment is fight or flight. The cortisol's flushing through our system, the adrenaline's on, we're like, in fear state because of our perspective. Now, if we took a little bit of a look and we saw, oh, it's not a snake, it's a little blue wren fossicking around for a worm, right? And then you go, and your whole experience of life in that moment is different. Your body relaxes. You are parasympathetic nervous system. You're feeling light and nice and beautiful and, oh, look at the rainbow kind of thing, right? Now, this is important because we have a choice of how we look at everything through our life. And if you choose a certain perspective that gives you a body experience of fear or worry or dread or anxiety or depression, that is your experience of life, your actual lived experience. When you shift your perspective, you shift your actual physiological state of being. Life becomes a lot nicer, and this is actually something that we can practice. It's not just like, oh, well, that would be nice if I could do that. It's like learning how to serve a tennis ball. If you've never served a tennis ball before, you can't do it. If you go out there every day for an hour and practice serving a tennis ball, I guarantee you'll learn how to serve a tennis ball. It's the same with shifting your perspective. It takes dedication and practice. Each day when you're looking at a situation and you're feeling terrible about it, stop yourself and explore some different ways of looking at that thing. Right? And if you do this enough day after day, you will develop the ability to look at things differently. And optimists, guess what? Live longer. That's a fact. That's research.
Yay.
Optimists actually live longer. Yeah.
That is so cool. And by the way, we're talking with Jem Fuller, and he is a remarkable man. He's a world traveler. He's also got a great website. Go to Jem which is JEMFuller.com. Find out all about him, the work he does. He's a great facilitator. He's a coach, and he's a wonderful teacher. And I would love for you to get in contact with him, because we are learning so much here. And when we come back from this break, I want to just touch on the 3 words that I use to put it into perspective for me. And I've given that gift to Burchelle, and I'm going to have her talk about that when we come back. And then Jem can tell us whether that's a good idea and that's a good perspective to have. We'll be right back in 40 seconds.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And Welcome back to Positive Talk with, I guess that's me, Kevin McDonald. And Michelle is right there. And Jem Fuller is with us. And Jem, I got to, these conversations that we get to have with people like you, they energize me. We've been sitting here for 6 hours doing shows, and everybody that we've talked to has just energized us because of the energy, because of the positive vibes that we're getting from everybody. But I gave a long time ago, not that long ago, okay, a little over a year ago, I gave Michelle 3 words that I wanted her to consider that she could use for her life and her situation. Because when I first met her and when we started working together, it was, oh my God, and oh crap, and this is bad, and going here, and I'm so pissed, and I'm da 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 da, and so I said to her one day, Michelle,
Let it be. And oh man, did that change my life. I write it on other people's mirrors in their house, in their car, in my car, upstairs, in my mirror. I have the same writing I can look down at right here, that said that since the day he told me to write it. And I don't want to admit I haven't cleaned that spot in my mirror, but it's priceless because that moment, how you say, Jen, that you look back and it all makes sense now. Kevin used to tell me that. I'm like, "Ugh, yeah, whatever. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Everything's just the way it's gonna be." But I gotta control it, and I gotta fix it. And no, that's not what that means. That
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the opposite
yeah.
of that. And so when I don't even remember really the day that it clicked, and I started saying it out loud. And then I started saying it to people. And then other people would tell me that in those moments. And it really just seems like the most simplest thing, just 3 words, let it be. Okay, yeah, let it be. But I think what really settled that in for me was learning how to be present. Because if I'm here or there, I can't be. And that sounded so great. I don't even know. I haven't even said that or realized that inside myself until this moment. So now
That was great.
it's
That
in
was
these
so good.
conversations when things are like, oh my gosh, that
That's
makes
so
sense, and
good.
that's why.
That's so good. That's like, let it be. Let it be. Let it
Stop.
be.
and
Let it be. Oh, let it
and
be.
and that came from Paul McCartney was dreaming about his mother, whose name was Mary. And he was all concerned and twittipated about the Beatles breaking up and this and joining on and the lawyers and the money and his mom came to him in a dream because she'd been passed since he was 14, and she said, Paul, just let it be. And that's how that
Uh-huh.
song came to be. And so
Wow, I
now,
never
So
knew
you
that.
never
Thank
told
you for
me that
sharing
this
that.
whole last year.
That's so
well,
cool, man. I love that.
and
Michelle
he
full of
tells
surprises.
Yes, he tells that story, and he says, "I don't know where it came from, but I was dreamed about my mother, and I was having
Yeah.
all this stuff go on." And she said, "Just let it be." And that
Well,
was
it makes
from
sense. Yeah. It makes
it
sense
really
because there's the
does.
line in
Connect.
the song, I wake up to the sound of music and Mother Mary comes to me. And I always thought he was talking about Mary Magdalene, but he's Mother Mary, his mum came to him, and she said, whispered words of wisdom, let it be, let it be.
That
Oh,
song will
bless your
forever make me
soul,
cry now.
young.
So thank you for that, Kevin.
And he said the lyrics so beautifully, and that was it was just a lesson for all of us that you cannot control things around you. Just let it be. And if you have a mind to, like I do, I have a team of guides that works with me. And so when I got my tire changed, I said thank you. Not to them. I said thank you to them, but I also said thank you to the powers above because they allowed that to all happen for me. And
Yes.
so that's just my perspective. But thank you
I love it, man.
for
That
the
saying thank you. Yeah, saying thank you is awesome. That's a real time practice of gratitude, and gratitude is another little hack to a happier life. If you are grateful, the more often you are grateful, the happier you feel. It's pretty simple. And so you saying thank you to the tire people, and also thank you to the powers that be for you. That gratitude practice, man, that's priceless. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
go ahead, Rochelle.
yeah, I was just going to touch on how we mentioned surrendering. That doesn't mean you give up. That does
No.
not mean I'm telling you to just give up and let everything around you just happen. Um, Jem, how would you give good advice on what I just said? Because I don't even know how to explain it.
I think we need to continually develop the ability to apply surrender, and to apply letting go, and to apply acceptance
Mhm.
to the things that we can't change or influence, right? The things we can't change or influence. That's what we should be surrendering to, letting go, accepting, right? Because if it's something that's out of your control and it's something that you've got no influence over, you are wasting your energy if you're trying to, but it shouldn't be like that, and it shouldn't be like that, and that shouldn't have happened. And it's like, yeah, but it did. Yeah, but it shouldn't have happened, but it did, right? Or that person shouldn't have spoken to me like that. Yeah, but they just did. Right? You can't change that happened, right? I use this acronym to help with this, and it's a famous acronym, CIA, but it's not the American spy organization, right? CIA. This acronym is so powerful. I use it every single day, and it's a mental, emotional, energy output efficiency practice, right? So I want to get more efficient at my mental, emotional, energy output. I don't want to waste my energy on stuff. I want to conserve it for the places where it's best used, right? So C stands for control. So if I'm stressing out over something, I'm going to ask myself, can I control it? If it's within my control, like if it's within me, then sure, rock on. I'm going to give it 100% of my energy. I'm going to try and figure out a solution. I'm going to try and work it out. I'm going to give it my energy, right? If I can control it. But most things in life we can't control. So then we look down to the I. The I stands for influence. So I'll look at it and go, well, can I influence this situation? And if I can, how much? Do I think I've got like a 5% influence or a 95% influence? And then it gets the appropriate amount of my blood, sweat, and tears, or my creative problem solving energy, or my care, or me leaning into it, right? But there's a lot of things that we can't control and we've got no influence over, and they all go into the accept basket. Now, when something's in the accept basket, it gets nada, nothing, zero, nilch, nothing, right? And there is a whole chunk of stuff that people worry about that can go straight in the accept basket, and that is everything that's happened in the past. You can't change it. It's done. We can learn from it, 100%. You know, I made a mistake, or I did something in a way that didn't get a great result, or maybe I hurt someone, or I hurt myself. Okay, so how can I do that better next time? Sure, learn from the past. But sitting here wishing that it hadn't happened, or saying that shouldn't have happened, or she shouldn't have done that, or he shouldn't, blah, 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 that is a complete waste of energy, because you're fighting with reality, and reality will win only 100% of the time, right? But reality will win. So we can use this as a calibration. In fact, you can use this as a self-love piece right now in this moment. If we took a snapshot of time, if we could freeze frame time right now, you are exactly who you're supposed to be, apparently, because there you are. Now, you can argue with that if you want till you're blue in the face, but reality will win. There you are, just the way you are. So you're good enough. You are good enough to be who you should be, which is you. You shouldn't be more like that person on Instagram. You should be you, and you're beautiful with all your bits and bobs, all your pieces, all your good, bad, and ugly, and great and beautiful, all of it. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. Reality tells us that, right? So that to me is a relief. That's like, oh, that's a relief. And people say, so when you go accept everything, like you accept that the president is who the president is, and you accept that war's going on, and you accept all of those things, does that mean that you are being apathetic and not wanting a better world. No. I'm not talking about creating a better future. I'm talking about accepting this moment for what it is right now. Does that make sense?
Yes, because it affects the future.
That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah. The more accepting you are in this moment, the more energy you have to put towards the things that you can control and influence in terms of making a better world.
Yeah. Well, Jem, we're running out of time. I literally am freaking out because I feel like this conversation shouldn't end. Will you promise to come back on the show and join us again for a new
I'd
conversation?
love to come back and talk with you guys again. You two are beautiful people and you're doing such beautiful work. And I feel very, very blessed and lucky to have been invited into a conversation with you. So that's a big yes from me.
Good.
It makes us fulfilled to do shows like this, because this is what this is all about. And oh, by the way, we've got to go, but I just wanted to say this. And by the way, go to Jem, which is jemfuller.com. Find out more about him. And I just wanted to say this. It's not up to me who listens to this show and when. That's up to the universe. But there's somebody, Jem, that's going to listen to this show, and I guarantee you it's going to change their life. So thank you.
Thank
for
you,
that.
Jem.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.